Hello everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special guest, a very good friend of mine. It's my guy, Takeover, here to tell us some of the worst epics in all of Raid Shadow Legends. Takeover, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. Looking forward to see who you have on your list here, because we both know that you absolutely love your epics, and I absolutely don't like them nearly as much. So I'd like to give you the first pick here of what epic like everybody should use as food because he's that bad.
Gosh.
Like, who is on your list? Because you don't feed any epics, so I'm curious to see who you've picked out here.
Yeah, no, and that's what I want to preface everything that I'm about to say in this video by saying that I don't believe that any epic should be fed until faction guardians are full and all of the good ones that you have the opportunity to be fully empowered.
Hold up! Click the link in the description below right now to get a free legendary champion, Bambus 4-leaf, as well as one amazing free epic as you level up. Here are the exact steps you need to follow. 1. Log out of Plarium Play on your PC. If you've never had Raid installed on your mobile phone before, the link will work there too. 2. Click the link in the description and start a brand new Raid Shadow Legends account with a brand new email. 3. Launch Raid and complete your tutorial. 4. You can find Bambus 4-leaf here as well as Ugo at level 15. This is an amazing account start in Raid Shadow Legends, so be sure to use my link in the description below right now.
So we'll start by saying that, but I will start it off with Ulrich the Hooded. Unfortunately, I just don't see a use case for this guy. He's got turn meter decrease on the A1.
Wait, what faction is that?
Bannerlords.
Bannerlord. All right. Alaric the Hooded. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I have this guy. I've never bothered to look at his kit. What's he got going for him?
Well, not much, unfortunately. He's got turn meter decrease on the A1 that is determined based on how many buffs are on the target. He has a 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs from the target before attacking on his A2, has a 100% chance when booked of stealing 2 random buffs instead if the target has 4 or more buffs. And then he's got an AoE, decrease attack and decrease accuracy on all enemies for 2 turns, on a 4-turn cooldown booked, and attack and faction crypts for the aura. His stats are bad. He doesn't hit hard. I have him. He's trash. I don't think that there's any use case for feeding epics until you're way later in the game, but if you're going to, this is the guy that I would start with.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. Maybe there's some use case for that decrease attack, decrease accuracy, but the rest of his kit, it's just so underwhelming, right? If it was a 3-turn cooldown on that A3, he might be a little bit better, but yeah, I absolutely agree with you. This is not a good epic, not an epic that a lot of people are going to find use for. Well, I'm going to go with my pick here. I want to see if you agree, but this guy is a Sacred Order Spirit Affinity epic. It's going to be Bushi here. Now, Bushi has a very interesting passive, but he's supposed to be a damage dealer. He doesn't really hit that hard. 14k base attack. On the A1, he attacks one enemy. Damage inflicted increases each time the skill is used, stacks up to 4 times. On the A2, on a 3-turn cooldown, when booked, attacks one enemy. This attack is always critical. Places a 30% increased crit rate buff and a 15% increased speed buff on this champion for 3 turns. And then on the passive here, on a 3-turn cooldown, revives this champion with 30% HP, places an unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn, and then his speed aura is for arena battles and it's 20%. He's just super underwhelming, not super great. I tried using him once. It didn't really work out for me too well. What do you think of Bushi, Takeover?
I honestly, I get where you're coming from, where that he's not very good, but I've actually been wrecked by a relentless Bushi before, so I will say that it's possible to make him good, but very hard to do. He's kind of like a single target budget Skullcrown, kind of. I mean, you can build him a 70% crit rate because he's providing his own increased crit rate, and that A2 is always critical. So he's got that going for him. But I think if you're not like desperate for an arena aura, then yeah, he's not somebody you're going to be looking forward to pulling. Honestly, I think he's more annoying to go up against than effective to use. So yeah, that's fair.
Fair. Yeah, fair. I mean, Relentless Bushi would be a lot like Relic Keeper, right? Relic Keeper's A1, attacks one enemy, grants an extra turn if the target is killed. Honorable mention to Relic Keeper, guys. He's not very good. I've been wrecked by him once or twice, but, you know, he's not very good at all.
Yeah.
Who's next on your list, Kuroda?
Next on my list.
Who do you think everyone should feed?
Next on my list, I think this champion's totally trash. Even I have already fed like 2 or 3 copies of this champion, and it is Hexia from the Undead Hordes, Force Affinity. Okay. We've got drop defense on the A1 with a chance that increases based on the number of debuffs on this champion. Yeah, and then she's got an attacks one enemy. Everything she's got a single target. Grants an extra turn and places increased attack on this champion for 2 turns. If this attack kills an enemy, damage increases, again, based on the number of debuffs on her. Then she's got an A3 that heals this champion by 15% of the damage inflicted. The heal increases by 10% for each debuff on this champion. Places increased speed on this champion for 2 turns. And then has attack and faction crips by 27%. The base attack isn't bad, but it's all single target. The extra turn is based on getting a kill and places the increased attack only if you get the kill. And now if that was placing the increased attack before the attack went off, maybe she would be usable as a single target nuke. But I think based on the way she is, I think she's utter garbage.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, saying that you have fed this champion is really, really like the pits. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feed epics at all, and I legitimately have already fed like 3 or 4 copies of this champion already.
Dang. Wow. All right, guys. Well, you heard it here first. Hexia is not worth investing in. I'm going to go with one faction over, a Demon Spawn epic that we all know and love from campaign, and that's going to be Hellgazer. Right, Hellgazer's A1 attacks one enemy with a 30% chance of placing a 60% drop defense debuff on the A2, removes all debuffs from this champion, places a 50% increased attack buff on this champion for 2 turns, grants an extra turn on a 3-turn cooldown. Then her A3 here, Malign Lightning on a 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies on each critical hit, fills the champion's turn meter by 10%. She doesn't hit that hard. She's not very useful. I don't like Hellgazer at all. Kuroda, do you agree with me here? A Spirit Affinity damage dealer kind of thing. It's just she's just pretty lackluster.
Yeah, I mean it's like Epic Shazar minus the bombs, right? It's kind of bad because the only thing that makes Shazar as good as he is his aura and the bombs. So you take those 2 things away and this champion is kind of a piece of crap. I mean, she can be annoying. I don't know what crack they make these guys smoke in campaign, but outside of that, I've never run up against a Hellgazer that was worth my time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. What do you think? What do you think? I mean, we've both picked what? 2? No, this is your 3rd pick now. This is your 3rd pick. What do you think for the next epic? I have some interesting thoughts going forward, but I want to see what you got.
See, this is where it starts getting hard because I'm starting to run out of epics where it's like, okay, yeah, this is just totally not worth your time in any use case. But I'm gonna go to Skinwalker's Force Affinity to Ursine Ice Crusher. I've got the polar bear, I don't have the black bear, but this bear is kind of bad. The only thing it's got going for it is that it's got block active skills on the A1, but it's a very low chance, so it's not like it's gonna be consistent. I think when booked, let's see, that goes up to 30% chance on the A1 to place block active skills. On a single attack, that's just not good enough. I got AoE decreased crit rate for 2 turns on the A2, and then a passive that decreases the damage all allies receive from critical hits by 15%. Fills this champion's turn meter by 5% whenever an enemy lands a normal, strong, or weak hit. I mean, I think this is just a bad kit. I think if it was just a 15% damage decrease all around, then automatically this guy is usable just because of damage reduction. But because it has to be a critical hit, I mean, you're kind of just, you're using this guy in arena? I don't think so. So, and then HP and all battles by 25% on an aura. The aura is not bad. Best part of his kit, in my opinion. I just don't see this guy being useful at all. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think this guy is very good. Very lackluster. I hate it when they put really good passives on bad champions. It's like, if they just put that passive on a different champ, that passive would be so good. but because it's on Mr. Ursine Ice Crusher here, who has like no utility whatsoever, it's really, really, really bad. I will say though, aesthetically, he looks pretty cool. I really like his.
That's what ticks me off, is when they make cool champions with crap kits. Like, I pulled this guy, I was like, oh, this guy looks sick. And then I started reading him, like, my smile just starts fading. It's like, I'm never touching this guy. And that's saying something, because Skinwalkers is my weakest faction. And I'm still not touching this guy.
Dang, yeah. Well, along similar lines there, I mean, my next pick is going to be a Lizard Man epic, also Force Affinity. It's going to be Brood Lord here. I pulled this guy, and reading his kit, I was like, oh, maybe this guy's actually pretty good. And then I realized I had misread his kit. So what does he do? On his A1, he attacks one enemy 2 times. Each has a 30% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn if the target is under a decreased speed debuff. So very conditional provoke, very low chance. On the A2, Defend the Nest places a 50% ally protection buff on an ally for 2 turns, and then a block debuffs buff on that ally for 1 turn. Also places a shield buff on this champion for 2 turns equal to 20% of this champion's max HP. On the A3, Primal Terror on a 3-turn cooldown booked. The A2 is also on a 3-turn cooldown booked. Attacks all enemies. Has a 40% chance of placing stun or a stun debuff for 1 turn. The chance increases to 75% against enemies under decreased speed debuffs. And then on his passive, whenever this champion is attacked or whenever allies under ally protection buffs are attacked, has a 30% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. That does book up to a 45% chance and then a 50% chance with the Sniper Mastery. And honestly, that's the best part of his kit. Where are you going to use single target ally protection with block debuffs? Where are you going to use, a very conditional low chance of provoke? Where are you going to use a low chance of stun that has, it's not even 100% chance against enemies under decreased speed booked, right? Like, this dude is absolute garbage, in my opinion. I don't like Mr. Brood Lord at all. And again, Lizard Men is like my weakest faction. I have Venomage and Razin, and that's it.
Yeah, okay, so this is where it's going to start getting weird, because I'm actually going to try to defend this guy. So with the passive, yeah, it's a low chance. I will give you that. It is possible that you could run him with another decreased speed champion. So that's possible. You could also build him in a provoke set. So that way you're mitigating the potential for that A1 to fail. Also, that A1 books up to another 20%. So it's actually a 50% chance on a 2-time hitter when booked. Now, yeah, the conditionality of the decreased speed is kind of stupid. But again, if you've got another source of decreased speed in your faction wars, that's going to end up being really consistent. And as far as single target ally protection with block debuffs and a shield, that's Necrat. That's exactly what Necrat does. So I think that you could actually say that skill could actually still be really strong. But I think that the biggest thing holding this guy back is the low chance to put decreased speed. I think if they had put AoE decreased speed on the A3 instead of a stun, I think this guy would be completely changed for the better and actually made more than viable outside of faction wars.
See, but that's the thing, like, where are you going to use this guy outside of faction wars? I mean, there are so many other champions that just have an AoE ally protection, right? I do like the passive. The passive is my favorite. Like, that's the reason I would use him. I like passives like Drexthar, Skeletor, and this Brood Lord guy, where just whenever their hit has a chance to debuff. I like passives like that. It's a really good way to keep consistency. Right. But like, where are you gonna use a single target ally protection outside of faction wars? Especially with the rest of his kit limited in this way. You know what I mean? He's not Necrat where it's like for 20 turns that he's putting out that ally protection. He's not Necrat where he's putting it out on a passive, right? Like, where are you gonna you don't really want a single target ally protector. You want your ally protectors to go on an AoE, right?
Well, I mean, the obvious use case for that is going to be if you're duoing. You're not going to need it on AoE. You're just protecting a single ally. So if you've got like a solo champ who just doesn't quite have enough tanking to do his job by himself, like a Drexthar or an Artak or whatever solo strategy that you're using, you could use Broodlord just to make sure they stay alive long enough to do the job using that ally protection. And you don't need it on 1500 turns like Necrat has it because it's on that 3-turn cooldown. So realistically, you're only gonna have like 1 turn of downtime. And if you're going fast enough to like solo something, chances are you're going to be going faster than whoever you're going up against, in which case you're going to be able to get it back up in time before you get beat to death. So I think this guy could be used for duo strategies outside of Faction Wars.
I mean, I guess, but he's not carrying any sort of healing or anything. I mean, he's just kind of got a weird kit. Again, I like the passive. We're going to have to agree to disagree on this guy. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on Broodlord. Do you use him? Do you think he's any good? Does Corrodor have a point? Let me know all of that. We'll hash this out in the comments. But Corrodor, if you don't think Broodlord is bad, who do you think is bad?
Oh, goodness. Shoot. Who do I think is worse than Broodlord? Oh, man. I'm telling you, it gets really hard for me just to look at things like that, because like whenever I pull a champion, I don't think of, oh, I can't use this guy. I think of what is the one area I can use this guy. So, okay, I'll go with Prundar, the Void Epic Ogryn that reads 50 billion books just to do nothing. We got an A1 that has a 45% chance of placing decreased speed for 2 turns and has a 45% chance of placing a stun instead when counterattacking. We got attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance to provoke for 1 turn. It's not even 100%, and this skill takes 7 books, 5 of which is debuff chance, just to go to a 75, and then places increased defense on this champion for 2 turns, not even the whole team. Like, come on, what are you doing? And then places strengthen and continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown. On the passive, receives 20% less damage from enemies under provoke and has a 50% chance of counterattacking whenever an enemy under provoke attacks either this champion or an ally. Defense in Doom Tower by 30%. This guy's absolute trash, especially for the number of books that he requires. There's just no use case you can convince me of where it is worth using this champion.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, the number of books he takes is really quite ridiculous. I mean, the passive is kind of nice if you need some crowd control for Faction Wars, but other than that, yeah, I absolutely agree.
Are you throwing 5 books in a passive for Faction Wars?
I mean, epic books aren't that uncommon. If I was desperate, I might, but I'm not that desperate, at least not yet. Also, I've never pulled a Prundar. So there is that. I'd rather book
this guy takes 20 books.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Is awful. Very useless. You sold me on that one. I'm going to go with a champ from the same faction. It's going to be Grimskin here. Grimskin, A1, attacks 1 enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a 30% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. A2, attacks 1 enemy 2 times. Each it has a 50% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. Has a 40% chance of placing the provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. If the first provoke debuff is placed, and then on the A3, attacks all enemies, has a 80% chance of removing 1 random buff from each target. That's on a 4-turn cooldown. The A2 is on a 3-turn cooldown. He might be good as a crowd control champion, except the chances are so low. And I mean, 50% chance of decreased speed, I guess, could be nice early game, but really, really bad.
I mean, honestly, I think this guy's a step up from Prundar, though, because I mean that
doesn't take much.
I'm not disagreeing on that point, but I mean that's a 2-time hitter with a 70% chance when booked on a 3-turn cooldown on the A2 for the provoke, and that's a 60% chance of placing the second batch on a 2-time hitter. That's the key. Each hit has that chance. And you think about champions like Stultus Dragonbane or Scylla the Drakes with their 2-time hitter AoE stuns. They're actually very consistent, so don't slack on the likelihood of these debuffs actually getting placed. It's actually a pretty high chance because it's got that second hit. So he could actually be a very consistent provoke champion. And then it's a 100% chance when booked on that A3 of removing the random buff. If you're dealing with those annoying waves in Faction Wars where with like the Bushis, where they've got the unkillable, that's the only buff that they'll have on them. So you only need to remove 1. So I can actually see a use case for this guy. I mean, the provoke, you've got Magma Dragon, so I don't see a problem with using him there. Anywhere you need crowd control early on. I know Argos Wild King was my first source of AoE crowd control that was with any kind of consistency, and that was AoE provoke. So I know that AoE provoke can still change an account even if it's not necessarily on a great skill. So honestly, I think that Grimskin could actually be useful. Do I think he's great? No. But I think he's far more useful than probably anyone that we've said on this list so far.
Really? He outdoes Broodlord for you. See, for me, I think Broodlord actually outdoes this guy. And yeah, you're right. The buff strip can be good against those Bushis in Faction Wars, right? The A1 decreased speed, I always like that, but I actually think Broodlord is a bit better than this guy. But I do see your point with him. He is usable. I just don't think he's great. You know, I don't think he's really
interesting. I'm curious. Why do you think Broodlord's better?
Because Broodlord can consistently keep everybody under decreased speed with his passive. I mean, you know, no passive that debuffs when you get hit has a 100% chance. So I can forgive him a little bit. Like that. Just bring another ally protector, like your Jareg or whatever, and then he'll just constantly keep everybody under decreased speed, and then he can go in and crowd control, and a stun is a better crowd control than a provoke. So I do think Broodlord is better than
I'm going to disagree, and strictly because of consistency. I think that Broodlord will be far less consistent in his crowd control. His AoE is a single hitter that had like a 50% chance. Maybe it got more with books. So you're getting a higher chance on a 2-time hitter at the crowd control with Grimskin by default. And unless they've got AoE A1s, you don't need the ally protection. You just need him to survive. So you build him tanky, maybe in regen, and I don't think you have to worry about anybody dying. So we'll agree to disagree, but I think that Grimskin would actually be better strictly because of consistency.
All right, I kind of see your point there. It's an okay kit, but it is a bit lackluster. Let's see. Do we each have one more? We each have one more to pick?
I believe so.
Who are you going
goodness
with,
gracious. Man? It gets harder each time. Who is somebody that if I had, I wouldn't even use for Faction Wars? Because that's what I'm trying to think of. Like everybody that we've said so far, it's like they might even have a use case in Faction Wars. When I look at these kinds of champions, it's like I'm not even using them for that, like Hexia. In which case, man, I'm really struggling here. Who is that bad? Let's go with, from the High Elves, Spirit Affinity, and we'll go with Marksman as my last pick. He's got a poison on the A1 with, if the attack is critical, has a 30% chance when booked of granting an extra turn. On the A2, single target, fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%, has a 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. And then a 4-time at random, each hit it has a 35% chance, 45 when booked, to ignore defense with speed in arena battles by 20%. I've never seen this guy do damage, even like in campaign. I never worried about the marksmans.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I've been Felris. That has been Corrodor, giving you guys our absolute worst epics. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you, and he will see you in another video.